Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name's Emma and today I have for you my 2024 reading wrap up and stats. So let's get into it. So how I'm actually going to do my 2024 reading wrap up, because I haven't done a yearly wrap up yet. This will be my first yearly wrap up because I only started putting out videos at the end of January 2024. So this is my first yearly wrap up and that's just clicked in my brain. That's pretty cool. I like that a lot. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through my stats from Storygraph, because I never even mentioned in my last video, right? But the main way I'm going to be tracking my books this year is through Storygraph. I just like that there's no a lot of faff, there's no a lot of fluff with Storygraph. It's here's what it is, this is what we're doing, and there we go. And I like that. I like a simple but what's the word? Efficient. I like a simple, efficient app that works, you know, and this does for me personally. I do find it user friendly, so that's how I'm going to be showing you my stats this year. And it is also how I'm going to be tracking my reading in 2025. So in the description box below, if you want to follow me, see my reading updates more regularly, I guess, then you can follow me on Storygraph. So in terms of reading goal last year, I set my reading goal at 70 books. I've discussed this in a previous video as well, that I set it at 70 books after saying, haha, I'm not going to have a numerical reading goal this year. And then I set it to 70 books because I was like, I want a challenge. And then everything happened, you know. So out of 70 books, I only read 53. But see, when I say I only read 53 is a lot of books. That's more than a book a week. Is there 52 weeks in a year? Yes, there is. So I read more than a book a week last year, which honestly is a good achievement. I can't even remember how many books I read the year before. It was maybe around the 60 mark. So 53 books last year, I feel like is really good for me considering everything that was going on. Out of the 53, only 4 of them didn't have any romance elements in it. I read 1 thriller, I read 1 academic fantasy, I read 1 non-fiction, and I read 1 YA fantasy. So that's the only 4 books that I read this year that didn't have any romantic or were classed as romance books. So I do really want to branch out this year. I've already started branching out, so we're off to a good start. Pages read were 22,675. That's a lot of pages when you add it up, isn't it? Cool, like it. Average time to finish a book was 8 days. That is kind of normal, I would say, for last year. My top moods were emotional, shock, horror. I love an emotional read. I love to cry when I read a book. I just love something that gets me in my heart, so that's not surprising. In terms of the pace of the books that I was reading, 4% was slow paced, 81% was medium paced, and 15% was fast paced. Page number, 9% was less than 300 pages, 70% was between 300 and 499 pages, and 21% was over 500 pages. I'm kind of shocked that 21% of those were over 500 pages, but I did read the Addicted series and those have quite a lot of pages within those books. In terms of fiction and non-fiction, I don't like this. I don't like that this looks like this. This will not be like this next year. Mark my words, okay? So I read 98% fiction and 2% non-fiction. That's changing for next year. In terms of genre, my most read genre, as you can tell here, is romance. Yeah, that is what it is. That's what I was into. It's what I like reading, right? But this also, I think, will change this year. I don't know. It'll definitely be more narrowed down. I don't think we're going to have like such a massive leap in between romance and other genres. In terms of format, I read 43% digitally, 6% audibly, and then 51% actually physical books. I'm actually quite chuffed with that because the majority of the reading I read in 2023, I think, was on my Kindle. So the fact that I managed to get that up to 51% and I read half of what I read last year was physical books, I'm okay with that. And then my most read authors last year is Kristen Becker Ritchie. Shock to no one. I read a 10-book series, 9 of which I read last year. So that's not surprising at all. Second in line is Monty J, because I read the entire Hollow Boys series. Overall, my average star rating for 2024 was 3.53. I'm not happy with that. I'm really not happy with that. I would love to get it up in the 4s. I don't know how likely that is to happen because sometimes you just read a book and you just don't like it, right? Sometimes you try something new and you just don't like it. So that brings the rating down massively. But I would really like to get it up to at least a 3.8. I think a 3.8 average rating would be really, really nice, wouldn't it? So now that we've went through all the stats, let's actually get into the reading wrap up. Right, I'm back and it was too cold, so I've decided to go and put a wee fleece on. I was absolutely freezing sitting here. This is probably the coldest room in my flat and it feels it at the moment. So this is what we're going to do the reading wrap up in. There we go. At least I'm cosy, you know. That's the most important thing. So how I've decided I'm going to do my 2024 reading wrap up is that I have done some research, you know. I've went and watched some vlogs, essentially. I've went and watched some videos of people's end of year book tag, and I have kind of just picked questions from there. I picked some questions from Sarah Crowley's end of year book tag as well, and just kind of done a wee mishmash of 15 questions or 15 prompts, I guess, and I'm going to answer them. And that's how I'm going to do my reading wrap up. And I feel like it's quite nice. Question number 1 is a book you wish you could read again for the first time. Now, if you're thinking about this, you probably think, oh, it's going to be like a favourite book. It's going to be a favourite book of the year. No, it's not. Thrive by Kristen Becca Ritchie. In the new reading order that is suggested on their website, that you read the Addicted Calloway Sisters series, because this used to be 2 separate series. It used to be the Addicted series, and then there was the Calloway Sisters series. Originally, this is in the Addicted series, and this follows Lily and Lo, only Lily and Lo's perspective. Here's the thing with the reading order, right? Because timelines in each book overlap, right? There's things that happen in Hothouse Flower that happen in the same timeline as things that happen in Thrive. So either way that you read it, you're probably going to get a spoiler for what happens in each book. If you read Thrive, you'll probably get spoilers for what happened at Hothouse Flower. If you read Hothouse Flower first, you'll probably read spoilers that's going to happen in Thrive. For me personally, I wish I'd read Thrive before Hothouse Flower. Reich and Daisy, sure, are fine. They're not my favourite Addicted Calloway Sisters series couple. That would be Rose and Connor, obviously. But I think, emotionally speaking, and for this to have a bigger emotional impact, I wish I'd read Thrive first. So this is a book that I wish I could read again for the first time, because I would read it in a different order, and I think it would have benefited me emotionally. I think it would have hit me a lot harder, but I was still sad to read it. Like, I think I've been sad and cried at every single one of these books. I love this series so much. It's not a perfect series. I haven't given any of these books 5 stars, but I just absolutely love reading about the characters in this series. Seeing the changes from book 1 to book 10 is just unbelievable. So yeah, that's number 1. Really didn't think I was going to go on an Addicted series rant there, but you know, it happens all the time. So there we go. Number 2 is the most surprising book of the year. Now this has to go to What Was Meant to Be by QB Tyler. I had never read a book by QB Tyler before this, and oh my gosh, do I want to read every single thing she's put out into the world, okay? What Was Meant to Be by QB Tyler is a taboo age gap romance. Now, if that's not your thing, totally get that. It's not everybody's cup of tea. I understand that. But I loved it. I loved the drama. I loved the romance. I genuinely believe that the two of these characters were supposed to be together. And since then, I've read another book by QB Tyler, which is called The Season of Secrets, which is like 232 pages. It's a wee kind of Christmas themed book. And also, the male main character in that, this is the thing, right? QB Tyler knows how to write a male main character that just absolutely is in love. There is no hesitation that he is in love with a female main character. There's none of this like back and forth. Well, now that I'm saying that, there is a bit of back and forth and What Was Meant to Be, but it's just good stuff. There's no hesitation that the two of them love each other. There's no, like, I just believe it, right? And I think with a lot of taboo romances, it's very much like you don't really quite believe it, because a lot of the tropes, a lot of the things in it are quite unbelievable. But QB Tyler just has a way of writing these characters. I'm like, yeah, you two are made for each other. You two are absolutely made for each other, and I wish you all the best, you know? So I'll absolutely be reading more of QB Tyler in 2025. Don't you worry about it. Number 3 is the most frustrating book that I read this year. Now this, no questions asked, goes to Raiders of the Lost Heart by Joe Segura. I had such high hopes for this book. It was supposed to be like a kind of Indiana Jones inspired archaeologist romance. I believe Corey's 35 and Ford is 38, and I was like, do you know what, this is good. I'm getting a bit older. I'm liking reading characters that are a bit older. Sometimes you don't want to read about people that are in college, and that's okay. So I was quite excited for this. People that have like adult jobs, adventurous jobs, was looking forward to it. And I hated the relationship in this. And I mean hate, like I loathed entirely the relationship in this. I just feel like there was a lot of snaky elements from the male main character. Like there was a lot of things he was doing, and I was like, oh, you sly dog. I was like, why are you doing this? It was just full of lies, full of fibs. It was such a fibber. And then when we were in the female main character's perspective, there was nothing. I feel like there was a lot, right? I feel like there was a lot that we could have known about Corey's background, and we didn't really get much of her background because she was way too focused on trying to jump Ford's bones. And I was like, listen, he's not all that. I think we need to take a step back, realise who we're speaking to, realise that this man, No, you can do much better, Corey. That's all that I was saying throughout this book. I was like, you can do so much better. Leave this man in the woods. Leave him in the jungle. Leave him wherever he is in there. I don't care. I just leave him there. Leave him there and go home and live a fruitful life on your own, please, because no, this was my most frustrating read of the year. Now, I'm not going to lie, this next one I'm really sad about. This is number 4, my most disappointing book of the year. And for this, I don't even want to hold it up, but I'm going to. It's Bride by Ali Hazelwood. Now, I have loved the majority of Ali Hazelwood's books. I think there's only one out of like the kind of STEM books that I haven't loved. And I think if I read it now, I might change my mind. Who knows? But this one, I think because I had such high hopes for it, because I had such high expectations in my head, I was just very disappointed. And do you know what? I said in my reading vlog for this, because I read it in my kind of spooky season reading vlog, I said that up until maybe like the 70% mark, this was a 4-star. This was a solid 4-star. And it was the end that brought it down to a 2.5. I originally in that video gave it a 3 and I've bumped it down. There was just something that happened towards the end of the book that I was like, why? Lo Morland specifically, I was like, why have you done this? There's ways to go about things. Communication is key. This is the thing with all these books. The main reason I don't like romance books, the main reason that I have a dislike for specific romance books is because the characters don't communicate. And I'm like, do you know what? A lot of problems can be solved if you just, can we have a wee chat? Can we have a wee discussion? You know, can we sort this out? Why is that so hard? But anyway, this was unfortunately my most disappointing read of the year, and I'm really, really sad about it. Now, this next one is going to be a shock to absolutely no one that has watched any of my videos before. Number 5, most emotional book of the year, 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. This is also my favourite book that I've read in 2024. I have not stopped thinking about this since I read it. I really haven't. I've only read it once, and I think I'm going to give it a reread in February. I think it's going to be like a year since I read it about that time. Let me actually just check. Oh, I finished it March 9th. 2024. March 9th. What a day. What a day to be changed forever. And I think when I reread it, it's going to take top spot for my favourite romance book of all time. Like, I love this book with everything in my being, with everything in my soul and heart. I love this book, and it is definitely my most emotional one. I'm getting a bit teary-eyed thinking about it. All I knew about this book was that it was about 2 writers who once upon a time, when they were younger, spent 7 days in June together, and then they kind of get separated. They went their separate ways, and they are reconnected later in life, and things go from there. That is all I'll tell you. It's the best book, genuinely. I mean, I said that off the tongue there. It's the best book I've ever read in my life. That's all I'm saying. And it was definitely the most emotional. Why am I going to cry? Why am I crying thinking about this book? It's just the best. I loved it. Oh, right, let's move on to the happiest. Number 6, happiest book that I read last year would have to be Checking Mate by Ali Hazelwood. Now, I loved this, right? Now, I think this made me the happiest because it was the cutest. This was the cutest book I read last year. This is a kind of new adult. I would say, I think it's actually classed as YA. I wouldn't class it as a YA. I would class it as a new adult romance, and it's just about these 2 kids, these 2 young adults playing chess. And it's great. It's just a good book. It was just very cute. It was very nice. It only took me like a day and a half to read. It was just easy, breezy, beautiful, cover girl. It was nice and I liked it. And this was probably the book that made me the happiest this year. Number 7 is the longest and shortest books you read in 2024. So let's go with the shortest. The shortest book I read this year was Ricochet at 226 pages. This is the second book in the Addicted Calloway Sisters series. This one is only from Lily's perspective, I believe. It wasn't my favourite book, right? You'll see if you go into my story graph, right, and you see my ratings for the Addicted series, you can very much see it goes from low to high, you know? Like, the first couple of books in the Addicted series are quite rough to get through, and it's because the first 2 books are only from Lily's perspective. So see, because you are in the perspective, you're in the head of an addict, it's quite difficult. It's quite repetitive. But if you manage to get past Ricochet and on to the next one in the series, honestly, it's so good. And then the longest book I read this year at a whopping 816 pages is Some Kind of Perfect. It's actually huge. It's massive. You hear the density of that. It's got a good flop to it, I'm not going to lie. I would love to read a lot more bigger books this year. Don't know if I'll go over 816 pages, but more kind of like 600-ish, 600 to to 700 pages maybe, but that was the longest in 2024. Number 8 is the best book I read this year. I have already spoke about this, so I'm going to be very, very swift about this. 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. No notes given. It's perfect. This is probably one of the only books that I will genuinely be like, read it. I recommend this book with everything I have. Read it. Question number 9 is the worst book I read this year. Now, this was a wee short book, so I kind of feel a wee bit bad putting it on this list, but also at the same time, I don't. It's Powerful by Lauren Roberts. This is the wee novella that is in between Powerless and in between Reckless. Is that what it's called? Yes. And you're lucky I got through it, honestly. I think it was just a bit of nothing and I didn't enjoy it at all. And see, if it wasn't Powerful being my worst book of the year, it would have been Reckless. I actually said I was going to continue on with this series because I was too nosy for more and good. I don't see myself doing that. I really don't. I can't be bothered. And I think it'll bring my rating down next year, so not doing it. Moving on to number 10, favourite new authors you found this year. Now, number 1 is going to be Tia Williams. I will read anything this woman puts out. Now, A Love Song for Vicky Wilde is already out, not going to lie, it's out. But I have been waiting. I've been waiting for it coming out in paperback because I had such a good reading experience reading this in paperback. I didn't want to hinder it with reading a hardback. So see when that comes out, I'm sure it's February maybe that it comes out in paperback in the UK. I've pre-ordered it. When it comes to my door, I'm reading it straight away. Another favourite author that I have found this year is Ashley Poston. I read The Dead Romantics and gave 4 stars, and I read The 7 Year Slip and gave it 5 stars. The 7 Year Slip is also one of my favourite books that I read this year. I absolutely loved this. I read this in my birthday vlog and it was just so good. Made me cry. Love a book that makes you cry, obviously. But I love this. So Ashley Poston has definitely became one of my favourite authors this year. I have a novel Love Story on my shelf, and then she's going to be coming out with another book this year, as well. So I'm looking forward to that. And then the third one would have to be Kristen Becker Ritchie, because I devoured this series. And do you know what? I will be reading the other books. Will I read the Like Us series? I don't know. Do you think I need to read the Like Us series for Burn Bright to make sense? Because Burn Bright is the first book in Cobalt Empire. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to read Cobalt Empire. But another author that I loved this year, Kristen Becker Ritchie. Now, favourite new characters, let me just go and get my books. So in terms of favourite characters, I actually have 5. Number 1 being Rose Calloway, especially in Kiss the Sky. I feel like Kiss the Sky was definitely Rosie's book over Connor's book. This follows Rose and Connor's perspective, but this just felt like Rosie's book. She's one of my favourite female main characters that I've read in a book. She's just so unapologetically herself. She has such a way about her that is just so unlikable, but I love it. I've really enjoyed being in Rosie's perspective this year. Another female main character that I have absolutely loved being in the head of this year is Soledad. I devoured this book. It's one of my favourite books of this year. It's so good. Being in the mind of Soledad was honestly just so refreshing this year because it was not a perfect process. It was not a linear process. It was very much a kind of learn as you go, right? She was learning how to be herself again. She was learning how to thrive again. She was learning how to take care of her kids on her own. There was a lot of things in this, and it was such a good book following a woman's perspective of just how to find herself again after something pretty bad happened to her. And it was just such a good book. I would recommend this series to everybody. It's such a good series by Kennedy Ryan. Moving on to male main characters, because we all love a book boyfriend, don't we? Number 1, Connor Cobalt. I love Connor Cobalt with everything in my being. I love him. One of my favourite men in books. The confidence in Connor Cobalt is something that we should all strive for, you know? Book boyfriend number 2 of the year, Isaiah Rhodes. Isaiah Rhodes. He's so sweet. He's so thoughtful. He's so kind. He's so generous. But he's got that in him, you know. And then third book boyfriend of the year has to go to West. Weston Belmont, the man that you are. Holy moly. Weston. Hell yeah. Number 12, I have kind of touched on this already, but this is my favourite new couples. Number 1 being Rose and Connor from the Addicted Galloway Sisters series. I love these two as individual characters. I love them as a couple also. I think they are such a unit. They are such a team. They just work. And not everybody is going to like the relationship. I'm going to say that right off the bat. Not everybody is going to agree or like this relationship. But holy moly, I love it. That's it. And then my other favourite couple of the year has to go to Soledad and Judah. This relationship, oh my God, Judah Cross, he is the most patient, the most caring male main character you'll read about in a book. And see the two of them together, it was just so nice. It was just so nice seeing these two characters fall in love in a relatively realistic timeline, right? It wasn't like insta lust, it wasn't insta love, it wasn't any of that kind of stuff. It was a very patient and very caring and kind relationship, and there was a lot of things that were going to be in these two characters' way. There was a lot of things that could have stopped the two of them be together, but do you know what? They made it work. And I love them together. Number 13 is something a bit different for me because I don't really consume a lot of TV. I don't really watch a lot of TV. The only TV programme that I have watched fully this year is The Penguin. It's the only thing I've watched all the way through. I watched Bridgerton, never watched the last episode. I've watched another couple of things, never really moved on with it. So I don't really watch a lot of TV. But number 13 is books that I think should be made into a TV show or a movie. Now, what I think would be a good TV show is the Addicted Calloway Sisters series. You could make multiple seasons on this. Do you know what I would do? I would eat it up. I would eat it up. I think there's so many characters in those books and there's so many storylines. There's so much that happens in these books. I think you would absolutely just devour it as a TV series. You can make it multiple series long. I would honestly sit there and be like, nom 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 nom. Love, give me more. What I would love to see made into a movie is 7 Days in June by Tia Williams, because I would love to see this played out. I would love to see this played out visually on screen. Like, I can see it so vividly in my head that I could see myself sitting in the cinema watching this, bawling my eyes out. Do you know what I mean? I can see it. I can see it so vividly. I can feel it so vividly because I've pictured it so well in my head. I would love to see this like actually visually played out. So yeah, this would be a great movie. Okay, we're nearly there. Number 14 is books that I will be prioritising in 2025 that are already on my shelves. Now for this, I've picked 3 book series. Number 1, nobody's going to be surprised at this, okay? Bear Time by Fredrik Backman. I am going to devour this series. It's just going to happen. I have wanted to read this all last year. I said before, I started reading it last year and just kind of stopped because I wanted to vlog it and experience it with you guys. Expect that to happen in January. I'm doing it. Second book and series is The Arc of a Scythe trilogy by Neil Shusterman. This was on my series to read of 2024. I'm carrying it over to 2025. The reason I'm so hesitant to get into this is because I loved Scythe so much. I gave this book 5 stars. It's a YA dystopian, so interesting. I absolutely loved this book when I first read it, and I'm just scared in case I don't like the other books. But I'm not going to be scared this year. I'm not going to be hesitant. I'm going to get right into it. I'm going to read this series and I'm going to like it. I think so anyway. So that's high priority also. And then the last book and series that I would like to get into this year is the Gods and Monsters series by Amber V. Nicole. The first book being The Book of Azrael. This is big. This is a big series. It's going to be a big series. I believe it's going to be 7 books long in total. I think there's only 3 books out just now. The 4th one might be coming out this year. I'm not 100% sure, I'm not going to lie, but I would love to get into this. I know a couple of people that have read it and absolutely loved it. I've seen a couple of people read it and say it's more on the political side rather than the romance side. It's a kind of more darker romance, fantasy. Very much looking forward to getting into this year. And we're on the last one, number 15, is books that I will be prioritising in 2025 that are new releases. Excited about these. The first one coming out on January 30th and it's Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonham Young. I'm so excited about this. If you loved Out on a Limb, like we all loved Out on a Limb, then I'm sure everybody that's pre-ordered this and is waiting on it is also going to love it. I can't wait to read this book. I'm going to love it. I know I am. Next one is kind of a rogue choice for me. It's Gifted and Talented by Olivia Blake. Now, I read The Atlas 6 at the start of this year and didn't love it. Did not continue on with the series, was not interested in it. But see when I seen what Gifted and Talented was about and it was compared to Succession, I was like, oh yeah, you've got me with that. I'm pre-ordering that immediately. I loved Succession. I've said before, specifically seasons 1 through 3 of Succession, I absolutely devoured. Season 4 was a bit too much business jargon for me. I had no idea what was going on. Still enjoyed it, but I was like, I don't know what's happened here. But Gifted and Talented was described as a kind of Succession style book. So very excited for that to come out on April 3rd. Now, a book that comes out on April 24th, I know nothing about, I will know nothing about, I don't want to know anything about it. Don't tell me a thing. I simply don't want to know. It's Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. This is a full trust in Emily Henry because I have full trust in Emily Henry. I don't even need to know what this is about to know that I'm probably going to love it. So that comes out April 24th. A book that comes out May 13th is Can't Get Enough by Kennedy Ryan. This is the third and I believe the final book in the Skyland series. The first one being Before I Let Go, the second one being This Could Be Us, and this one being Can't Get Enough. The reason why I can't wait for this book to come out is because it's Hendrix's book. I cannot wait to see what Hendrix is all about. She has a very different lifestyle, a very different way she wants to live compared to the main characters in Before I Let Go and This Could Be Us. I just feel like I'm really going to love Hendrix and I'm really going to love her story. So I'm very, very excited for Can't Get Enough by Kennedy Ryan to come out on May 13th. And then the final book that I'm excited about coming out this year comes out on September 2nd. It's Burn Bright by Krista and Becca Ritchie. This is the first book in the Cobalt Empire series. This is going to follow the Cobalt Kids. And I believe some of the Cobalt Kids have already had their stories told in the Like Us series, which is the spin-off series of the Addicted Calaby Sisters series. But Burn Bright, being called Cobalt Empire, and I love the Cobalts, will be reading, will be purchasing, in my birthday month no less. It's like they knew I needed a treat. It's like they knew I wanted a birthday treat, you know? So excellent timing. So there we go, that is me finally managed to get through my reading stats and reading wrap up of 2024. Now, what I would like to know from you is what was your absolute favourite, and I mean favourite book of 2024? I would absolutely love to know. You know mine. It's 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. So let me know what your favourite book is of last year. I would absolutely love to know. But that's pretty much all I've got for you. So I'm going to go. Thank you very much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a wee like, give it a wee thumbs up, subscribe if you want to come back and see more, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!